I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Nashville Town Council to order at this time. Would you please stand for the pledge?
Mayor,
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let us pray, and at this time let's remember Deputy Allison, who passed away, his team members that worked with him, and also his family. Heavenly Father, we invite you into this meeting tonight to lead and guide us as a council to make decisions that will be for the best interest of all people. In your name we pray, amen.
Amen.
Now we're going to the approval of our minutes for October the 28th and November the 3rd.
So in speaking with several of the council members just before the meeting, it seems that we have a few revisions that might take a little while, so I'm just making a motion to approve the minutes at the next meeting so that we can get our changes over to you in a timely fashion.
And I would like to say that we need full and complete minutes, not summarizations that are subjective.
I have a motion that we... Second. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We'll move on to our next item. We're going to dispense with the public comment policy tonight to hear from some people at Liberty that did not receive their letters till late. Are there any people here that would like to speak from the Liberty rezoning concerning their development? You may come forward and give your name and your address, and you may speak.
Okay. My name is Gail Parrish. I live at 1904 Liberty Drive. I've been a lifelong resident of Nash County. My family came here in 1962. I bought the first house out in Liberty Acres. I am concerned about the tract of land that is being requested to be developed as a high density. In looking at the Nash County tax records, this developer does not own any other property in Nash County, so it seems to me it's not his intention to live in the community, and especially the one he is intending to develop. My concern would be about our property values going down and the traffic on Liberty Drive itself coming in and out of that subdivision. So I would respectfully ask that the zoning remain as it is for the interest of the people who already own property in Liberty Acres.
Thank you very kindly.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak from Liberty Acres? At this time, we will, this is the time when we need to elect a mayor pro tem for 2021. So at this time, I'd like to ask if there are any nominations for pro tem for 2021.
Mayor, I would like to nominate Kate Burns.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor of Kate continuing in that position, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion
Thank you.
carries. Now we'll move on to our next items, 5A in our book, and it's recognizing and honoring people, which is always nice to do. Each year, the town of Nashville recognizes employees who have reached service milestones. Please join us in congratulating the following employees for their years of service with the town. For 5 years of service, okay, you have do you have the certificates? Okay, great. For 5 years of service, we have Lou Bunch, who has her own certificate. Put her to work. Chris Sykes, if he is present. Nick Fleming. For 10 years of service, we have Andrew Joyner and Brent Langley. For 15 years of service, we have Robbie Bobbitt, Robert Joyner, Vicki Collier, and Bill Trimmer. And for 20 years of service, we have Kim Barnes, Yvette Hinton, and Tawan Richardson. Yvette, wave so we can see you. And we'll make sure. Thank you so much for your service, and we'll make certain that the others get their certificates. At this time, it's a sad time for us, but an exciting time for two people. We'd like to honor two of our team people that are retiring. We have Thurman Evans of Public Works Department. He's been there a long time, and everybody knows him, and he's served us well. Is Thurman here tonight, Thurman Evans? Okay, and we'll make sure he gets that. And then we have Tina Price. Tina's here, and she's worked with us, what, 18 years, Tina?
Almost 19, yes, ma'am.
Come and get your certificate. We're going to miss you. We thank you so much for all of your hard work and service to the town of Nashville. Thank you, Tina. Our next item on the agenda is old business, and our first old business is inducement agreement amendment with Prime One Builders LLC. On November the 19th, the council held a public hearing on the first inducement agreement and land exchange agreement between the town of Nashville and Lee Balance, Prime One Builders LLC. The agreement exchanges 3.13 acres of Mr. Balance's land in the West Nashville Commerce Park with 3.13 acres of the town's land in the West Nashville Commerce Park. The final version of this agreement amendment was attached, and we had an opportunity to read that. And at this time, I'll turn it over to our town manager to give you some information.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I was trying to pull up on the overhead here for everybody to see it, but we've had an inducement agreement with Lee Balance, a partner of the town's in economic development, to do 4 shell buildings in the West Nashville Commerce Park. One of them is built and is now occupied by Astera Labs, and per the agreement, he's to begin the second one. At the time that agreement was put together, some of the land suitability for development wasn't known. It is now, and Lee Balance, per that agreement, the town had transferred some land for approximately 3.1 acres on the south side of Commerce Street, which in order to develop now has to have a waterway removed from it and the eastern part of it actually be elevated so you can build on it. So he has asked if the town would exchange land for him so he could get started with shell building number 2 and have room for shell building number 3. So the preliminary site plan that his engineer did shows that shell building number 2 on an exchange will work just fine. Where he's planning on putting shell building number 3 was right alongside number 2, and that property is somewhat marginal for development. So what he would like to do is propose an exchange with the town for a 1.6 acre lot just east of Astera Labs, right on the corner of Cook Drive. And that's what the inducement agreement is about. Lee Balance does have one additional thing he would like to add, and it has to do with what's on page 4 of the agreement. He would like, with regard to the deadline when we're doing the 3 or the 4 shell buildings, to have language in there that can be extended by mutual agreement, which is essentially what we've been doing here the last couple of years as, you know, the shell building didn't take off and didn't have a tenant. So the performance in that agreement with that additional language would, if we get to 2023 and he doesn't have all the remaining 3 shell buildings built and occupied, by mutual agreement we can extend that agreement.
Are there any questions concerning this from the council? If not, do I hear a motion that we approve this first amendment to inducement agreement and exchange agreement?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Let's move on to the next item, 6B, in our packet, council, which is, it is rezoning request to rename approximately 5.1 acres, 100th acre, from a 9.47 acre tract of land located at 609 Weston Avenue from R10 medium density residential to R6 high density residential. The parcel contains approximately 9.47 hundredths of an acres and is identified by Nash County tax parcel number as 380006299776. Mr. Hart's first rezoning request, Z2020-03, was denied by the Planning Board on August 26, 2020. On August 28, 2020, Mr. Hart withdrew his rezoning and special use request prior to the September 1st, 2020 Town Council regular meeting, opting instead to meet with the neighboring property owners on September the 16th, 2020, and find out what and how they would like to see the property develop. Shortly thereafter, Mr. Hurt submitted a letter of request to the Planning Board, requesting the right to waive the 6-month requirement from the date of the filing of the last petition due to unusual circumstances and unnecessary hardship. He indicated in his letter that after meeting with the neighboring property owners, he wanted to seek partial rezoning of the 9 acres to MF. He stated multiple family. He stated that he purchased the property to develop it into an income-producing property. Without the rezoning and subsequent development, he is not generating income from the property. At the September 30th, 2020 Planning Board meeting, the Planning Board approved Mr. Hurt's request to waive the 6-month time limit to reconsider the rezoning request. Mr. Hurt is now proposing to rezone 5.100 of the acres of the petition property to MF multiple family in the rear of the 9.47 acre tract, leaving the remaining 4.46 acres at R10. The reason for the rezoning request is to allow construction of a multifamily building. The petition property is in a zoning diverse area surrounded by multifamily MF, R10 medium density residential, R6 high density residential, B1 business, I-1 industrial, and A-1 agricultural zoning districts. The future land use map designates the petition property as low residential growth, with the surrounding areas being classified as high density, medium density, agricultural, industrial, and commercial growth. The town is in the process of developing a new comprehensive plan and updated future land use map. The new future land use map will examine and classify undeveloped lands to highest and best use based upon the community's need, the public infrastructure serving a property, and a property's surrounding land uses. With the petition property's frontage to a state highway, location within a diverse mixed-use neighborhood, immediate access to a large diameter water and sewer main, high voltage electrical line, 4-inch natural gas line, and direct storm sewer discharge to Stony Creek, the update future land use map will no doubt reclassify the petition property to multifamily, office and institutional, or highway commercial. The staff recommends approval of Z2020-05. The Planning Board recommends to deny the approval of Z2020-05. At this time, does the rezoning applicant have any further things he'd like to say?
Mayor, just one point of minor clarification. In the summary of the issue, it says that the request is to rezone from R10 to R6. That should be to MF multifamily in the summary.
Okay, thank you kindly.
There was some concerns about the stormwater situation that got brought up at our last meeting. We forwarded that documentation to you regarding that, but I've also requested Mike Tolson with Matt Gay and Associates to possibly give a brief description about some of the stormwater concerns, and hopefully he can put that to rest.
Is he here?
He is, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So I was contacted to discuss the general guidelines and what the design requirements would be for any project that would go on that piece of property, whether it was a residential subdivision or whether it was multifamily or shopping center or anything like that. So we did some research into what the town's current regulations are. You guys are currently have a local stormwater ordinance that you issue your own individual permits that on a case-by-case basis. The general guidelines for the state, and it models the state regulations for design for stormwater requirements, which means you have to store and treat the first inch and a half of rain that falls on the property. And then you also have to set build an impoundment that will make it so that there is no more water leaving the site after the development, meaning currently if there's 10 gallons of water leaving the site in a rainstorm, just say for now, and there's 100 gallons that would want to leave the site after you've developed it, then we have to hold it to 10 gallons a minute and store and treat that 90 gallons and let it discharge over a 2 to 5 day period. Now, with that said, we'll use any manner of impoundments that we can use. There's stormwater wetlands, there's wet ponds, there's dry ponds. Those are the general tools we use to impound water and hold it long enough to have treated it, allow the solids to settle out, and to discharge it safely into the waterways where it's at. The whole property now currently drains to Stony Creek as it is. All we'll do is dig a large enough pond to hold the water that would be in excess compared to what it is today, and hold it and draw down over a 2 to 5 day period. I'm not sure where the specific concerns were, but those are the general guidelines we would be required to meet anywhere in the town, as long as if we disturb an acre or more, it kicks those regulations in, and we would certainly be disturbing more than that with this development in any phase we did.
So how is that tested to see how much water goes down before and then after?
So honestly, we have equations that estimate runoff, and if you're using the same measure of volume, if it's the first inch and a half on 9.5 acres, let's just say 10 acres, that's an inch and a half of rain that falls, that's a certain volume of water. And as you develop the property, there's more and more of it that will want to run off, so you use rating factors that give you a certain percentage of runoff that will fall from every inch and a half of rain. 1.25 inches of that rain will run off, possibly, depending on whether there's all rooftops or if there's grass or impervious area versus impervious area. So we run those calculations and do those models and run hydraulic analysis on everything in order to be able to say and safely state that this is how much water was running off today. We'll run a peak flow, we'll set it at that, and that will be what we design to in the rest of the process.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
And obviously, anything that we do, if we're able to get this approved, it has to go through a special use, so that the council is going to have that opportunity to be able to review and approve whatever goes there moving forward, whether it be a 3-story apartment building or a 2-story apartment building. But having said that, Mike brought up a good point in an earlier conversation that we had today about the possibility of being able to build a storm pond that could withstand a 100-year flood. Is that not correct? And we would certainly entertain that if that would put more of the community's mind at ease, and that's something that could be reviewed during a special use permit as well.
So what he's referring to is, you've all heard the 100-year storm, I'm sure, especially living in East North Carolina. You've seen and heard what 100-year, 200, 300-year. So typically the design storm is the 1-year, 24-hour storm, and that's just a fancy way of saying it's got a 1% chance of occurring. these are, that as a certain depth, that's where that 1.5 inches comes from. A 100-year storm will be more in the lines of 7.5 inches of rain, so much bigger volume to store. So we would build a much bigger pond to store that volume, and there's some other things you have to do to impound that, to put that in and route it the way it needs to be. But you know, if you chose to put that stipulation in a special use permit side of things to say you got to store the runoff, you could maybe we could at least do everything possible on this specific lot to retain stormwater on that site. Now, in a 100-year storm, it's not going to stop the banks of Stony Creek from swelling. There's nothing that's going to stop that, especially with the development upstream and downstream. But at least this lot will have done its part in more than its part to keep stormwater, you know, on site as long as it can while the rest of the floodwaters rise around. And it will do much less than other sites that have been developed to a lesser degree to prevent that nuisance flooding. So,
Thank you so much. Thank you.
That's it. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Mr. Hurd, and I apologize, I have been out of place the last 2 weeks, but am I to understand that your proposal for the apartments have now, are we still talking about 2 3-stories or 2 2-stories? I saw a new rendition of a drawing, but
Sure, so
explain that to me.
the newer rendition that we did is actually a 3-story, but it's actually as tall as a 2-story. It goes 24 foot to the eave height. But my point was what I was just talking about. The point is we're not requesting the ability to build anything yet, because it has to go through special use council to approve it. We're just seeking that rezoning of that classification. And so, you know, this discussion, this conversation that we're having would not stop if this were to be approved today. There's still a lot of different conversations, a lot of different discussions that could be had. And, you know, I don't get fixated on one particular path. The way I do business is I'm going forward. I'm moving forward, and if I hit a wall, I might bounce off that wall, but I'm still moving forward. So I'm not saying I can't be swayed that we can't work something out to be able to potentially look at doing a 2-story there. But we got to keep moving forward. Life's so short, we want to keep moving forward every day. And I do want to take this time to say we need to be praying for Jimmy at Nashville Building Supply. I've been in contact with them about possibly purchasing that property as well. And I understand Mr. Hinton's in the hospital and he's got COVID. And so please keep him in your prayers. He's been in this community for a long time, as well as some of the other people that's been recognized here tonight. And I think that's important to bring up. But is there any other questions, brother? I wish you were here. I tried to bring it down like Jerry Cloud, but it didn't, you know, we tried our best. Anyhow.
Thank you.
All right. Thank y'all.
Thank you. At this time, do I hear a motion concerning this property from the council?
Call for a vote.
Mayor Brown, the planning board voted to deny. The citizens who live in the area were very vocal, and that they are not in favor of this. So I move that we deny this request for multifamily.
Do I hear a second? If not, do I hear a motion that we approve this applicant's request?
I second Louise's motion. I think you've done a wonderful job listening to the community. I think you did a great job bringing back a different plan. However, when we're looking at this, we can't look at the design of it. We can't look at the single building. We can't look at what you was presented. We can't look at the natural buffers that you said that you're going to keep. We can't look at your offer to fix the flooding issues, because we can't put any conditions on any approval for zoning. It's just approving it with no strings attached. I think if we had the community support where they came forward and said, this is something that we really want, that we really need, I would say yes. I think that if our future plan use said that it was going to be high density there, I would say yes. I think I would love to see you develop in Nashville. I don't want you to think that we're anti-development or anti-you. I think that you have really great vision. I think that this area was, in 2011, there was a focus group of 7 focus groups, actually, of citizens, of stakeholders, of council members that designated this area to be lower density. I think that it has changed. I think it will change in the upcoming comprehensive plan, but that's just not where we are right now. That's not what our future plan use currently states. We don't have the community support. We don't have the anyone saying, you know, that this is a need for us. And so I have to, as pretty as it is, as nice as it is, as much as I would like to see it somewhere, I have to agree with Louise and say deny.
All those in favor of denying the plan, let it be known by saying aye.
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 Hey,
Did you say aye? Okay. All those opposed?
No.
The motion carries, then it will be denied. At this time, we'll move on to our next item.
Mayor, may I, 5C, I think we skipped over.
Did I skip over 5C? I don't have a
I don't-
5C.
Have a 5C either.
Yeah, there's no 5C.
Do you have a, I don't have a 5C.
I'm not sure how that happened. 5C is Carolina Gateway Partnership, a brief presentation by Jordan Jordan, I'm sorry.
You want that later in?
I've got
Yeah.
it later on in here, but not,
Oh, you do?
No, it's just not 5C.
okay,
My agenda has it, 5C.
okay. The next inducement agreement is, let me get back to where we were. It's the rezoning request to rezone property located off Liberty Drive from R10 medium density residential to R6 high density residential. This parcel contains approximately 17.99 acres and identified by Nash County Tax Parcel Number 3800-1692-8666. The rezoning request from R10 to R6 as presented is to provide 8,000 square foot lots for 2-family dwellings to be located within Phase 2 of Liberty Acres subdivision. The minimum lot size requirement for R10 is 10,000 square feet of single unit and 12,000 for a double unit. The minimum lot size requirement for R6 is 6,000 square feet for a single unit and 8,000 for a double unit. According to Nashville NC Code of Ordinances, Section 18-112, Description of Districts, the R10 is defined as medium-density residential areas of mostly single-family dwellings, whereas the R6 district is defined as medium to high-density residential areas where single-family and multi-family dwellings are commingled, and certain open areas where similar residential development will likely occur. Overall, both R10 and R6 zoning districts share the same residential land uses permit in both R10 and R6 zoning districts. The surrounding zoning districts of the petition property are R10 medium-density residential, MF multifamily high-density residential in A-1 agricultural zoning districts. With regards to the future land use map, the petition property is classified as low residential growth, whereas the surrounding properties are classified as high, medium, and low-density residential growth. At this time, would the rezoning applicant like to say something to the council? Anything?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank y'all for your time, and it's an honor to be here to speak with y'all tonight. My name is Coley Crosby. I'm the engineer representing my client, Reasoning Construction, and with the Planning Board, R6 high-density rezoning. I think it's also important to note that with this rezoning, it gives us the opportunity to do multifamily dwellings at a 8,000 square foot, very close to the R10 existing condition. We also felt that the R6 is more cohesive with the environment in lieu of going with the MF surrounding district. And we think that this property has the potential to bring a lot of patronage and to be a good thing for the town of Nashville.
Thank you.
I would like to say that, no, to answer the lady's question, I do not live in Nashville, North Carolina. I'm actually.
Could you introduce yourself?
Oh, I sincerely apologize. I was assuming everyone knew who I was. No, my name is Jeremy Reason. I'm the owner of Reason Development Incorporated, and I apologize for not introducing myself. But I would like to say that no, I do not live in Nashville, North Carolina. I was born and raised in Elm City, North Carolina, and my wife and my family we live in Sims, and but one of my other companies, we do own a small farm in Dorches, and also we do own excuse me, property off of Tar River off 301, and I have been my father again. He started a construction company in 1975. And we have been doing commercial and residential development in Rocky Mount and the surrounding areas. So Rocky Mount and Nashville is kind of like a second home to me. And it's just kind of like I said in the first two meetings, I'm not trying to do anything to lower value of anyone's property. I'm trying to actually, like my engineer was saying, finish developing a subdivision. And just trying to help Nashville grow and just kind of give them give Nashville the housing and things like that it needs.
Can you address the traffic question? Thank you.
My name's Will Ferris. I practice in Wilson. I'm a partner at Ferris and Thomas in Wilson. I think it's real important that we do talk about the traffic issue. I'm not sure under the statutes, and the town attorney probably tell you that's necessarily competent evidence if there's not a traffic study. But I think since there was an email sent, either I know it was sent to us, it might have been sent to you guys as well. I think it is important. I think Ms. Parrish. I think it is important that we do address it. And one of the most important and overwhelming things that I've heard throughout this whole development process is that it's already approved for a certain plan. The most that this does is add 6 lots.
Right, so it was already approved for 29 to 30, and it's increasing it to 36.
Right. So when we talk about traffic, the traffic's going to go from, I mean, it's not like it's not approved for anything. It's already a second phase. And so in terms of addressing traffic, you could do a traffic study and say how much this would impact it, just like the individual was talking about the rain. But the truth of the matter is take 6 additional lots, and you'll find out how much traffic it is. The real traffic comes in, and the real The real impact, I believe, will be when the full development comes, Ms. Parrish. And in fairness, that's already been approved. And so if it's built as approved, then you're gonna have an impact on traffic. And what we would like to do is to add six parcels, six lot increase. What we built, as the guy before that came up, and I don't know where he's from, but he came up and said that it would have to go through approval and everything, and you know that. You're very familiar with that. But right now, the front part, I think, has 33 lots. The back part would increase 6 lots. It would increase traffic, but it's going to increase traffic anyway if you go back and develop that part that's already been approved. I think it was approved back in 2003, so 17 years ago. It's already got the road cut back there and everything. So in reality, all you're doing is adding 6 lots to that. And yes, it does add traffic, but in reality, if you actually develop it as it is right now, you're going to add traffic, and it's going to have an impact on traffic. I don't know if I answered the question, but that's sort of what I'm trying to explain to you, is that it will have an impact either way with the development. There is 2 roads, of course, St. Andrews, I think, and Liberty, that could be used for, coming in and out.
Any questions, council?
I'd also like to add one more thing to note. This property is surrounded by already existing parcels as well as a watershed buffer. So the growth or the amount that we can fit on that lot anyways is already limited. The number that we are presenting is your maximum, quote unquote, number. And we don't, again, this is our rough in estimate. You know that we're at this process, but we have to gauge an amount to be able to come to y'all and the people and kind of give them an idea of kind of what we want. But we feel, though, again, with talking with the planning department, that this is the most cohesive with the future planning, and it actually has the town's best interest in mind in lieu of the other precedent zoning that surrounds this parcel.
And the last thing, I think it's important to mention the part that the mayor read, with the planning board. Overall, the R10 and R6 zoning districts share the same residential land uses. So, I mean, there's not a large difference, but there is you are making it a big difference in terms of the impact with 6 extra lots. But we hope that it's approved. I can tell you, I grew up in Wilson too, right down the road, and I've been over here a lot for court and other things. And the beauty of Nashville is that it's not booming with growth, but at the same time, you want growth to be able to help your services and your tax base and everything associated therewith. And if you're going to have people coming in to work around Nash County and Edgecombe County, you'd love for them to live here as well and to contribute to the beauty of Nashville, and that's the community. And so my thought behind that is, if you're going to approve these types of things, then what you do is when they come to you with a map and say, this is the way, these are our plans for the building, then you very, very tough on the way that they build and make sure that they build quality product, and you make sure that it's going to fit in with the environment that it's in. And in this particular instance, you're actually making sure that you're not going to allow growth because of the natural way that the land is. And so you are going to say, okay, we're going to let this happen. We will have our finger on it when we come later. When you come later to talk about what you're going to build and be ready for changes, which I think that Jeremy is. I mean, through this whole process, he said, this has been my dream. This is his lifelong dream. Many days he's on a tractor working. He's not in here. And so his dream is that he's been in the construction business for years, and this is his dream to do his first development. And by golly, he wants to do it right, and he wants to be able to ride over here and see people, because Wilson's not that far away, and Elm City's certainly not that far away, and Sims isn't either. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any more questions or discussion? Excuse me.
No, I just said thank you.
Thank you so much. The staff's recommendation is approval of Z 2020-04, and the planning board recommends approval of this property also, Z 2020-04. Do I hear a motion from the council concerning this development?
I make a motion that we approve this.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
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 All those opposed?
No. Mayor, I wanted to just mention, I have some concerns that we are not consistently applying the standards that we have. The zoning that we just voted down, based on the fact that the planning board's recommendation was it did not fit in the community, was not conformable, not in harmony with the surrounding area, so they denied it. In this case, planning board said, based on a review of the Nashville Comprehensive Plan, Code of Ordinances, future land use map, and other official plans, it was noted that the rezoning request was not consistent with the future land use map, which has the property stated for medium density, but then they went on in spite of this inconsistency, and I do have some concerns that we are applying the land use plan differently, so that's the reason for my no vote.
I'd just like to note in there that they do give a reason as far as why. And these are two very similar zoning standards from R10 to R6, where in the other one you're taking R10 and going to the highest possible density. You also have what has currently been already approved as far as lots and what's going to be there. So I think that there are several reasons that the planning board did list that, right, it's not consistent with the future use plan of it, but it is consistent with these other things that have already been in place, and this is something that is beneficial and not to the detriment of the surrounding area.
Motion carries. We have 3 in favor and 1 opposed, so the motion carries. Our next item is the engineering contract for Wendy Oak Drive Drainage Improvement Project. We had a contract that the council reviewed that Stocks Engineering to do the design, bid, letting, and construction engineering for alternative number 2 of the Wendy Oak Drive Drainage Improvement Project. Alternative number 2 has a 10-year level of service or will handle up to 10-year storm event. It also constructs an over-the-land route for storm volumes to flow through the Wendy Oak and Laura Springs neighborhood that are greater than the 10-year storm event. The projected construction cost is $316,451. The engineering cost under this contract is $33,950. The total project cost with engineering is projected to be $401. We will use $47,000 in storm sewer fund balance to start the project and pay the remaining $303,401 from the general fund balance. Randy, do you have anything that you'd like to say about this, or does that include it all?
Well, unless, of course, the council has questions, I don't have a time frame to give you for this, other than if this contract is approved tonight with Stocks Engineering, they'll get started with it immediately, hopefully have the design done by the end of January, go out to bid, February, review back March, and then April, we can let a contract in.
Council, do you have any comments?
One question, I don't know, I don't see Kevin, I don't think he's here, is he? I don't know whether I missed this earlier on, but the engineering cost here under the contract is $33,950. In the early estimates at our September meeting, they included the permitting and design, which was $22,000. I just didn't know whether there was a way to address what that difference was in the engineering.
Some of the increase in there is the actual construction engineering, overseeing the construction as the project is being built. And that's primarily the difference. And I think they sharpened the pencil since they did the original study as to what their costs are going to be in doing this project for us.
Do I hear a motion that we accept this contract to correct Wendy Oak Drive's drainage problem?
I'd like an explanation of the borrowing from fund balance. That's something we've never done before. Is there any way that can be addressed?
Sam, if you wouldn't mind, I mean, initially, Louise, we proposed, if the council wanted to, we could borrow this money. We could borrow from our own funds, and then as our stormwater fees come in, we could repay it back. But I guess I was under the understanding at the last meeting, when the council voted to move forward with this, we weren't gonna mess with the internal borrowing. We were just gonna take the difference from the fund balance, finish the project, and move on.
So we're never taking the storm fees and reimbursing the fund balance?
Basically, yes. So we'll set aside a portion of the stormwater revenue each year to repay the general fund.
So we will be reimbursing, okay.
If that's what you guys want to do, we can do that. I guess I was thinking after the last meeting, I don't know who may have said it, but it's their own money, and let's just pay for it, be done, and move on. The internal borrowing, we can certainly do. We have mechanisms to put that in place. I don't know if that answered your question, Louise?
No, it's just, we've never done that before, and it seemed like, some creative accounting or something.
Well, I guess it's either gonna come from fund balance, which has nothing to do with stormwater fees, or it eventually will be paid by stormwater fees. So it all depends on where we want it to come from.
But it depletes our stormwater fund pretty much for other projects, right?
It does. As we talked last time, this pretty much works out the balance that we have in stormwater. And, even having projected what there's no interest. I'm assuming we do this internal loan at no interest. We can have that money paid back over a 7 or 8 year period and still be able to do our maintenance items that we do every year with, small storm sewer improvement projects, like we have been doing the last 3 years.
So council, do I drainage problem corrected?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
Okay, motion carries. 3 in favor and 1 opposed. Our next item is the Nash County's request to close Elm Street between Drake Street and North Body Street and a half block of Court Street between Elm and Vale for an additional on to the Nash County Detention Center. Nash County has revised its request to close a portion of Elm Street in order to accommodate the expansion of the Nash County Detention Center on the corner of Elm Street and Drake Street. The revised request is to close Elm Street from North Body Street to Drake Street and a half block of North Court Street between Elm Street and Vale Street. Jonathan, the Director of Public Utilities and Facilities for Nash County, is going to explain it to us a little. Okay.
Briefly, I'm Z. Lamb, County Manager for Nash County, and before Jonathan speaks, I just wanted to thank the mayor and the members of council for the great relationship that the county and the town of Nashville have. I've been involved in Pasquotank County, where I was a county commissioner, Bertie County, where I was a county manager, and Chowan County, where I was a county manager. And in all 3 of those places and many other places that I know of, there's not the relationship. Lynn Hobbs, yeah, that's right, we work together. It really is. I want y'all to realize, compared to other places, the relationship that this county and this town have together is not the norm. And I thank y'all for all y'all do. And I'm going to turn it over to Jonathan at this point. But thank y'all for all you do. Thank you.
right, thank you, Madam Mayor. Appreciate the opportunity to speak to the board again tonight regarding the county's amended request regarding the closure of Elm Street, again in conjunction with the proposed expansion and renovation of the Nash County Detention Facility. You may recall that came and spoke to the board in late September regarding the project, the capital improvement project there at the detention facility. I've pared down my presentation quite a bit tonight, but if there's any questions that harken back to the presentation back in September, I'll be glad to revisit those items. But I really just kind of pared the presentation down to a bare minimum tonight. And I apologize for the lack of sophistication with advancing my slides. But again, the project that the county is undertaking is an expansion of the Nash County Detention Facility, specifically a 94-bed addition to the property in the northwest quadrant of the block of Washington, Drake, Elm, and Body Street. In addition, there is some internal renovations that will take place in the facility, but the primary driver for the request associated with the closure of Elm Street is that 94-bed addition. Speaking of the 94-bed addition, I've got an exhibit here. You may remember this from September. It's a little bit hard to see, but the dark outline there, the rectangle you see, is the addition. It's basically a two-story facility. It'll be two pods, if you will. That's detention facility speak. In each pod, there'll be 47 beds. These are primarily two-bed cells, and really this is in conjunction or in response primarily to the Nash County Sheriff's concerns about the increasing level of violence that we're seeing in the jail and inmates that we have in the facility, and the ability to better secure those inmates and protect not only their safety, but the safety of the detention officers. So with regards to the request, again, our first request came and presented to the board back in late September. That initial request was a closure of Elm Street between Drake Street and Court Street, and I've got an aerial that we'll refer to here in a minute to help get everyone oriented. I know you're probably very familiar with the location, but certainly for the public that's here tonight. But when we came to the board back in September, there were a couple of concerns that were raised, or at least my takeaways. There may have been others, and certainly we'll be glad to try to attempt to address those tonight if I missed any. But the first concern was about the possibility for additional traffic in the residential area north of the jail due to the closure, again, between Court and Drake Street. And then the second, but due to that closure and the potential for increased traffic in that residential area, the town requested that the county look at some possible alternatives to mitigate the impact on those residents. So again, just to refresh your memory, the exhibit you have here shows the closure from Court Street to Drake Street. Drake Street's not labeled, but again, that would be the street north-south on the west side of that addition that I'm showing there. Just to help kind of orient the public, even though I refer to a closure of a block of Elm Street, really it's a fairly short block. Typically blocks are 500-600 feet in length, and the distance between Court Street and Drake Street is about 230 feet. So it's really more like a half block. But the nature of this request, the situation that this particular closure would create is that traffic on Elm Street proceeding west behind the jail and the county administrative building would come to a closure here immediately west of Court and would have to turn north, either make a U-turn or turn north on Court Street and then go up 280 feet, so that's not quite a full block either, to Vale Street, and then either turn left or right. So based on the concerns about the potential for increased traffic in that area, we revisited some of our plans, kind of kicking around some ideas, and that brought us to the conclusion, well, maybe it would be best to pursue a full block closure of Elm Street from Drake Street to Body Street. And again, I've got an exhibit that would to show that to you a little bit better. And with that closure, we would have to close about 110 feet of Court Street. Again, it's a fairly short block, 280 feet, but there are 3 residences on the north side, and I'll show that in an aerial here in just a second. So again, I think I hit all those items. Again, as the aerial will show, in conjunction with that closure on Court Street, we're proposing to add a turnaround, which was a concern that was also raised at the meeting in September. Because I have a clicker now. So this is the aerial. I'm sorry I did not bring a pointer with me, but again, you can see that full block of Elm Street from Body Street on the east side of the detention facility. We proceed west. You see Court Street, about 110 feet is what we propose or request that the town consider closing. You see that hammerhead turnaround, which would serve those, it looks like 4 homes, but the one in the lower right, or just to the right of that hammerhead, actually fronts on Body Street. So it's only 3 homes that front on Court Street. So that would be a turnaround to serve residents in that area. And then the closure again would extend from Body Street to the east to Drake Street to the west. And the thought there would be that traffic on Washington Street, again, Elm Street, my apologies, coming from the east, when they get to the closure at Body Street, which is right at the corner of the administration building, if they're not associated with the residential areas to the north, they would likely just turn left and come up to the intersection of Body and Washington Street, and then turn right and continue on their path to the west. Because inevitably, unless they are heading to the jail, that's what they have to do anyway. They have to turn on Drake Street, come up to Washington Street, and then continue on to the west to complete their trip. So we felt this may be a better solution, maybe help better insulate the residents from the traffic on Washington Street. Again, I worked at the county for about 18 months. Cross that street when I park in the gravel lot just north of the jail. See the traffic there. A lot of that traffic is county related. It's related to the detention facility. There's a fairly wide street, a little bit higher speeds than maybe you would expect in that area. So this would be a measure that maybe would help address some concerns about traffic in this area. All right, next slide. p.m. And you can see the turn and movement counts there over that 12-hour period. So if we're looking on Elm Street, westbound coming up to Drake Street, you can see we had 14 vehicles turn right and go back into the neighborhood. 47 vehicles continued straight across the intersection, presumably, and turned into the parking lot beside the detention facility or the courthouse, again, mostly county employees. And we had 105 vehicles that turned left on Drake Street and either parked on street on Drake Street because of the sheriff's office or court, or continued to Washington Street and turn right. You can see the vehicle count on the opposite side coming back east on Elm Street, and then you can see the traffic coming out of the neighborhood or off of Drake Street north of Elm Street. 12 vehicles came up to the intersection, turned left, proceeded east on Elm. 8 continued straight through, presumably onto Washington Street. But over that 12-hour period, we counted 268 vehicles. So again, that previous count, a gross count of 309, 310, over 12 hours, we counted 268. So that's about 85% of the vehicles that were counted by that DOT2 counter. So we felt like we got a pretty good handle on the vehicles, the traffic on Elm Street, and where they're going when they're coming west on Elm. And what you'll see there is, based on my calculations, there's about less than 15% of the traffic on Elm Street is related to that residential area north of the jail. And I come to that number by adding the vehicles southbound on Drake Street, the 12 and the 8, the 14 on Elm Street turning right, and going on Drake Street, and the 5 vehicles that are coming across the intersection and turning left and heading north on Drake. So 39 out of those 268 vehicles. So not a lot of traffic associated with those houses north and west of the jail. So I thought that was helpful to just kind of give us a frame of reference when we're concerned about maybe traffic impacts associated with the requested closure. All right, next slide. So again, this slide you may remember from September, and again, I think the expanded closure is even maybe more beneficial in terms of what the county is looking to achieve with the expansion of the jail, the addition of some additional security measures, which again we discussed back in September, in terms of additional a secondary containment fence, the ability to have an emergency evacuation area inside a enclosed, secure area, and also the ability to bring delivery vehicles into the site inside a secured area, which honestly we do not have today, if you're familiar with the facility. So again, the loading dock ends up being within a secured area. It's not today. We can control access to this area. If you harken back to the slide that I showed earlier on the presentation behind the jail, we can control that with a remotely operated fence operated through name control by the detention facility. And again, the additional fencing, we can push that a little bit further out away from the jail. We have had issues, at least the sheriff's office has reported, we have had issues, continue to have issues with contraband coming into the facility. So any additional fencing secured, we can push that secured perimeter out. That would be a good thing. And you also may recall, and I referenced back in September, as you know, we've had a couple of jail escapes in the past. We haven't had any since that last escape back, I believe it was in April. We hope we don't have any more, but every time we have an inmate in the facility, you can rest assured they spend some period of their day thinking about how they can get out. The expansion, again, with that 94 bed addition, we're eating up a lot of the available real estate that we have left for mechanical, electrical, and plumbing related equipment for the facility and for the expansion. So this would give us some additional room to accommodate that infrastructure. Again, it pushes that fencing away further from the building. May recall from presentation in September that with Elm Street the way it is today, if you're really paying close attention, if you notice back once we make our way back out of COVID, the exercise yards that we have on the facility on the north side of the jail, and in some cases you can see, if you're an inmate, you can see out, and if you're looking hard enough and you're on Elm Street, you're passing a vehicle, you can see in. And we have had issues with family members, associates of inmates trying to pass contraband into the facility because of the proximity of Elm Street to the jail. So again, pushing that secured perimeter out is only going to help with that issue. And again, I mentioned the opportunity to have in the event of an emergency in the facility where we had to move inmates out, maybe a situation where we have a fire, smoke in the facility, we have to move inmates outside the facility. Having that secured area would be an opportunity to stage inmates, bring in transportation within a secured perimeter, load those inmates up, and take them off site. So for all those reasons, we are asking that the town consider our request for that closure of Elm Street and that partial closure of Court Street. So this just basically outlines our request regarding the closure, and I'll be glad to answer any questions that you may have.
Do any of the council have any questions?
The only concern that I had, and I believe I was one of the ones that brought up the question about the traffic in the neighborhood on the hill behind there. Based on your survey, and you hit, in my estimation, I think your survey hit the nail right on the head. About 80 or 85% of the traffic that's going through this section of the street that we're proposing, that you're requesting to be closed, are county vehicles anyway. There are very few of the citizens that live up on the hill that use that stretch of that street there. And I would hope that if this is approved, that it would be, and this is something that the county can control, that the deputies and the county employees that normally come in from the east side of the jail and come around behind the jail, that they won't resort to turning, going up through that neighborhood. I hope they would be instructed to come on down and enter from the west side parking lot and come in that way, because my main concern was to keep the traffic off that hill. And if we do the closure and then the county goes up on the hill, then we did all this for nothing. So I would hope that if this is approved, that you would keep that in mind, and that's totally under you guys' control. I am not a proponent of wanting to give up that street, but I've only had 2 people to contact me in concerns for that street, about closing the street. But as I have told you guys in meetings prior to tonight, is that we still have to have thank you, public hearing from the citizens up on the hill, because I would beg to differ that I bet you there's probably not 1 or 2 houses on that hill that knows that this is going on. So, not saying which way I'll go, but you know, you guys knew what I said before, but I'm still relying on what those citizens, how they feel about it in the very end. But traffic was my major concern, and I do want to make sure that we are still good stewards with the county, because if we help the county with this today, then I'm quite sure down the road, and probably sooner than we might want to think, that we'll come back to the county and ask for something back from the county. And we do have to be good stewards, because Nashville is the county seat of Nash County. And as Mr. Lamb said, we do have a good working relationship, and I hope whichever way this decision goes, whether it's for or against, that we don't damage that relationship that we have already.
I certainly appreciate your comments, and recognize that there's trade-offs regardless of what we decide to do, what the town decides to do. Certainly we think that we think the closure of Elm Street from Body to Drake Street, while certainly will have some impact for those 268 vehicles that are using, or 310 vehicles that are using Elm Street today, we think the benefits far outweigh the drawbacks. But at the end of the day, the county commissioners have approved $10 million to invest in that facility. That project is going to go forward regardless of what we decide to do about Elm Street. There's just some enhancements that we will not be able to implement in the absence of the closure of Elm Street. That security fencing, that off-site storage area for inmates and a secure perimeter, those kind of things we will not be able to do without the closure. But we feel like the closure is the best move. Is there some potential downside? Yes. I wish I could say there's not, but that would be less than honest. But we're going to move forward with the project. We need the beds. We need the secure housing for inmates. It's got to happen. We want to protect the neighbors. Again, every hour, I'm not going to say every hour, but when an inmate's in that facility, they spend a good portion of the day with not much else to do, thinking about how they can get out. And we try to spend our time thinking about how we can keep them in. And what we're trying to do here is to put additional barriers in place that should an inmate breach a portion of the facility, we've got time to react, and we can keep them on site, so we're not sending officers, whether they be Nash County deputies, City of Rocky Mount, Highway Patrol, even folks out of state looking for inmates from Nash County.
Or our Nashville officers also.
Correct, thank you.
Randy, the construction will not be over the street, only the fencing is going to be over the street portion of it. How much infrastructure do we have under that street?
Well, there is some infrastructure there, so I mean, if the council decides to vacate, go through with that, we'd have to retain an easement through there for a water line, for a sewer line, there's some telecommunication lines that go through there. The new Elm Street storm sewer is gonna go through there. I think Jonathan pointed out, there won't be any construction on the street right away itself.
So if we needed to get to it, it wouldn't be a big problem. We just tear it up.
Gated either end.
Just tear it up. Okay.
Yeah, sewer, water, storm drainage is on the north side of Elm Street.
I would like to say this is our only through street on the north side of town, the only through street from First all the way down, and we're giving that up. Also, we're giving up Drake by not being able to get through Elm to Drake. The only people who would be using that would be county or the people who live up on the hill. There's
Well,
also a
first I would
church
say-
over there that will not be easily accessible.
I guess it depends on what your definition of a through street is. A through street that terminates at Drake Street and requires you to exit onto Washington Street. So it's a through street that ends 500 feet from Body Street. But your question about Drake Street was what specifically?
We will be losing access to that, too.
Well, you will not be losing access to that. Again, those 18 vehicles that I showed on Drake Street coming out of the residence will still have access to Drake Street, can continue on to Washington Street as they do today, or can come back through the parking lot, which we see some of that activity today. But Drake Street would remain as it is today. Drake Street is not proposed to change, only Elm Street between Drake and Body.
Any other comments, council, or questions for Jonathan? Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you, ma'am.
I have one question. As far as the traffic with the county employees, can we have a sign put up saying like no through traffic, you know, so that you have to have a destination there, that you gotta be either going home or to the church or whatever it may be?
So we're talking about on Elm Street, could you say no?
So
through?
where you, right, so where you would be, we want people to be making a left onto Body to go back onto Washington. So if people made a right instead
Correct.
to try to loop around county employees kind of thing. So either, maybe even on Vale Street, you know, to prevent people from just looping to get to the courthouse parking lot.
Well, I guess my response to that, Councilman Taylor kind of hit the nail on the head. Most of that traffic is going to be related to the sheriff's office.
Right.
And I think the sheriff would have the ability
Control
to
over that.
Nip that
Okay.
in the bud.
Plus the entrance to the detention center will now be over
Mhm.
in that part.
Correct. We are relocating the entrance for detention officers to the west side of the facility. But again, the opportunity we have there is the sheriff's office. A lot of those vehicles are marked, so you can't really hide when you got a deputy driving around in a patrol vehicle. So I think we could deal with that
Okay.
problem.
Thank you, Jonathan, very much. At this time, the recommendation is that we approve and work with Nash County to accommodate the detention center expansion. Do I hear a motion in favor of that?
So move.
Do I hear a second? Second. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
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 No.
Okay, we have 3 in favor and 1 opposed, so the motion carries.
So one thing this is the beginning of the process.
Right.
You know, the decision has not been made to close Elm Street here this evening.
This is just a move forward.
The process now, we will schedule a public hearing on this. We will notify all the people up on the hill, property owners and tenants, and we will hold that public hearing, so you'll have an opportunity to hear what those folks in that area say about, and we'll make sure that nobody's denied access to their property or to their house. And then you can decide after that. public
This is
hearing.
just giving permission to move forward and seek information. Okay, thank you very kindly. Our next item is the Renewal water purchase contract with the City of Rocky Mount. The City of Rocky Mount will not remove and you had all the contract and everything that we've been over, and we requested the last time that some things be removed, but the City of Rocky Mount will not remove the red text language in the sections of the water purchase contract between the town and the city. The city is agreeable, however, with all of our other changes, with the red text language remaining. But the town manager says that we're really no worse off than we were presently. And I wanted to ask our attorney, when reading this, does it look good and in good faith to you?
Yes, and the important changes you are seeking were important, but I think even with them not changing it, you would be good to go ahead and, if the rest of the contract is agreeable with you, you're good to approve it.
Okay, Randy, did you have anything to say?
Well, I did, Brenton Bent, who's the Director of Water Resources for the City of Rocky Mount, he did ask for explanation on why we wanted to remove that language, so I gave him what we had talked about, and with regard to one of those, he believes there may be a difference of interpretation with regard to, we wanted the word decrease taken out of the contract, so our volume of water under this contract can't go down. And the concern was, what if Rocky Mount takes on another city or town and starts to provide? You only got so much water, that means everybody else's allotment is gonna be decreased. And they see just from the other way, that the town of Nashville may in the future have an opportunity to put online another well, and we don't need this much allotment under this contract, and it would give the town the ability to decrease, request and agree to a decrease. So he and Rocky Mount understand where we were coming from with the language we wanted to strike, and, you know, he provided that rebuttal back as to at least one of the changes, what their interpretation of that is.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions, council? If not, do I hear a motion that we approve the renewal of the water purchase contract between the town of Nashville and the city of Rocky Mount?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Our next item is the consideration of an extension to the interlocal agreement between the town of Nashville and Nash County for the delivery of the field athletic programs at Glover Park. In the summary, the interlocal agreement between the town of Nashville and Nash County for the delivery of field athletic programs at Glover Park is set to expire on January the 21st, 2021. The Town of Nashville PRCR Department and the Nash County Recreation Department recommend the agreement be extended for an additional 3 years. The PRCR board has been consulted and are in favor of an extension of the current agreement. It is requested that the council extend the interlocal agreement for an additional 3 years starting on January 21st, 2021. Do I hear any comments or any concerns or discussion from the council?
Where did we come up with the, well, our first agreement was for 1 year.
Right.
And I realized this has not been a normal 1 year for us to observe what's going on.
True.
So I expected an extension to be requested. Why did we select 3 years? Because it said 3 to 5 years. Why did we go to 3 years?
We do have with us this evening, we have our own Park and Rec Director, Coy, and then we also have Thomas with County Park and Recreation. And gentlemen, if you wouldn't mind stepping forward, maybe you can answer some of those questions. From my point of view, we put in 3 years for the council to give consideration to. If you don't want to do 3 years, you can do
It's your
2 years,
decision.
you can do another year extension. And you are right, Larry, it has not been a good year to have a full
Baseline.
see how this goes.
Right.
COVID.
Well, and I was hoping, and no disrespect to the county rec director, but we have a new Parks and Rec director of our own, Coy, and myself, I'm hoping that Coy's gonna step in here and pick up where we dropped the ball somewhere down the road. And I just didn't want to shut him out if he had some ideas or thought that he could move forward with it, that he's got to wait 3 years before he can step in and do anything with it. That's my concern.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. And the way it's currently set up, as long as the county is providing quality athletic programs, I think it really is the best for the residents in Nashville that our department goes a different direction and a different focus on those non-athletic programs, just so they get a well-rounded offering of programs.
Well, from what I've observed, this past year, even in a COVID environment, it's been very successful. I've rode by there and seen that parking lot, I mean, that field slam full. My concern is that every year we've got to pay you an inducement to keep the maintenance and everything going, but then the revenues that you're acquiring through the tournaments and stuff going on, we get no feedback from it, none whatsoever.
The town does.
Huh?
The town does.
We do?
We had an economic impact of how much?
How much? I mean, okay, you saying the town, you mean the town?
I'm saying the
You're saying the citizens-
businesses of
the
the
businesses
town
of
are
town.
seeing like $100,000 or so in
Yes.
revenue.
And according to my notes I have here, we had 11 tournaments since July.
Okay.
And the economic impact, estimated economic impact is $567,240 for the town of Nashville.
And you got those numbers from where?
Got those numbers from the economic impact report methodology uses numbers, the total number of teams with the average number of players and patrons, as well as the total number of tournament days. And the average day tripper spends $30 a day in food, shopping, gas, etc. This creates the direct spending numbers. The indirect economic impact multiplies this by 2 to account for job creation, sales tax, revenue, and other indirect economic factors that create a healthy economy. Pretty much these numbers are widely used by the industry and scaled down to meet the cost of living in each community. Nash County uses the formula that the city of Rocky Mount used, but on a scaled back version to represent Nashville's economy. This formula was derived from partnerships with the Greater Raleigh Sports Council and Michael Walden, Chief Economist for NC State University.
Okay.
What figure was that again? You said 567?
567,240. And I have a copy of each tournament that we've had in Nashville, as well as how many teams and how many spectators that I can give y'all a copy of if y'all want a copy as well.
So again, it's up to the council how long you want to read. 1 more year, 2 more years, whatever term you want to put on this. The staff is fully supportive of 1 year, 2 year, or 3 years.
I make a motion that we move it to 2 years.
I second that.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
I did have one quick question.
Okay, I'm sorry.
But one of these provisions, we said that the town shall be responsible for all water and sewer bills at Glover until such time as a water meter was installed. Did we ever get that
Oh,
installed?
yeah. Has that meter been installed?
I don't think so.
No?
You don't think so?
Okay.
We have Lee Brown, our public works director, here this evening, who can likely inform us about that.
Well, when the guys got started to install the water meters, the corona hit, so we kind of had to deal with that for several months. And then we've, more recently, we've reshifted our efforts towards the repair and maintenance of some fire hydrants. So these meters have been put on the back burner, but we can't.
Comment I had was equipment. I think that was already transferred, so that can be stricken out of the
Correct.
contract.
Yeah, and I would like to say that I haven't took this to our board yet. We was waiting to get the approval from the town of Nashville or the recommendation. So as soon as y'all approve the recommendation, I'll take it to our board and then we'll move forward from there.
Okay. Thank you, Thomas.
Thank you, Thomas.
Okay, so
Need to vote.
Need a vote.
we've had a motion that we go 2 years and a second. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
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 Aye. All those in, motion carries.
Was there a second part of that with the expenditure of funds for the baseball
Yeah.
fields?
No.
It's not under a second tab.
Yeah, it was the second part. I wanted to discuss the improvements. That's next on the agenda, the Glover Park improvements, if I'm not mistaken.
Page 81.
Page 81, yes.
So, are you waiting on me?
Yes, go ahead, I'm sorry.
So, at the July monthly meeting, the council approved 3 improvement projects for Glover Park. The electrical improvement project at the football field. Tractor was not able to complete the work on the baseball dugout improvement project because he planned for wood framing for some reason. However, the wood frame did not attach to the roof, and he didn't have any way of doing metal tubes for the framework. So my knowledge is I'm thinking that he didn't have the ability to weld the metal to the fencing. So after receiving new quotes, the lowest quote received was from Southeast Fabricators for $20,753 to install 8 dugout structures, which is 2 dugouts on each field on 4 fields. So if we install 4 dugout structures, which is 2 fields this fiscal year, the total price will be $10,376.50. So with our staff, we identified So when staff first identified the project, we were unaware of how much that would cost for $20,000 for all 4 fields. So we looked at getting a laser grading project instead. So laser grading consists of lip removal and adding dirt to baseball fields 1 and 2. This will provide smoother playing surface, decrease standing water, increase playability, allow for fewer rain delays, decrease potential for injuries, and reduce holes or settlement in heavy play areas. And this total project came up to $13,300. We have, at the moment, $13,537 left and 47 cents remaining in the Glover Park improvement account. So back in July, and during this time, we've noticed how much water that was on fields 1 and 2. That's why we're recommending to do the laser grading project instead of the dugout structures project. As I mentioned earlier, we had several turf contractors come look at the fields, and they all agreed that fields 1 and 2 need to be laser graded. And I think there was some pictures attached in y'all packet, if I'm not mistaken, just showing y'all how much water the fields hold once we have a rainstorm. So our staff, we're recommending to get the fields laser graded instead of the dugout projects that y'all approved back in July.
Would that be considered maintenance or a capital project?
It's considered maintenance, but it's also helped the field. It also helps the field as well, especially when it comes to these tournaments. As I mentioned, we've hosted 11 tournaments in Nashville. However, we've had 5th graded, from what I've been told, up since the early 2010s. So I put that on the staff, the prior staff, not maintaining the fields properly. And if we want to continue,
I was of the understanding that our $20,000 a year was for capital improvement.
correct.
I just want to make sure that we're doing capital
And
improvement.
this will improve the field. This will keep the tournaments coming to Nashville. But as long as it rains on a weekend, those fields are going to hold water, and that means we're going to cancel games, and we won't be bringing in that economic impact because we have to move the tournaments to another location, whether it's Red Oak or Spring Hope. And the tournament directors really love playing here in Nashville. So we just want to solve this problem. I think this is a bigger issue than the dugout structures right now.
So when do you intend on rectifying the dugout situation?
The dugout problems?
Next year?
Yes, sir.
Next year?
Yes, sir.
The $20,000 the estimate that you got now, how much is that over what your initial estimate was?
$12,000.
More?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought.
And the county, the county at the new park, the Miracle Park, we were given the same $8,800 quote, and it put us in a bind as well. So we had to pay the additional funds for the dugouts on the new park at Cooper's as well.
Is the laser grading something that will have to be repeated?
Once we get it laser graded, we can continue to add dirt like every year or every other year. It won't be as expensive, and this will more than likely be a maintenance issue moving forward, coming out of our operational budget. But right now, it's a major problem, especially even in Red Oak. Red Oak just paid for their fields to be laser graded as well. We signed the pre-audited and turned the PO, and it's the same price. They're getting all four of their fields done for roughly around $23,000.
I see this more as a capital improvement than a maintenance, just because you can't, no general maintenance is going to get this to where it needs to be.
No.
This is a larger, bigger improvement that they then can do general maintenance on.
And this would
Yes. Yes.
with the general maintenance. I mean, I had staff. We'd go out there after it rains, push the water off the field with the rollers, but it takes 8 hours just to get one field done and back playable. And this will definitely allow us to get bigger tournaments as well, because one guy came and he said that we would be able to host a big World Series event, but we got to get our fields done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Council, do we need to vote on this? I guess so. Do you approve them doing this maintenance rather than the dugout? Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Okay, second?
Second.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Uh-huh.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
kindly. Okay, council people, we're gonna go back. We did not have 5-3 for, Oppie, but Oppie, we're gonna do the Carolina Gateway Partnership now, if you don't mind coming up, because we didn't have you in our packet, but you're on our agenda, and I apologize. Is that okay with you, council?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I feel terrible.
I do too. I feel so bad. We didn't have it in our packet, but we had you on the agenda, but that's my fault.
That's not a
I
problem.
apologize.
I decided to give you copies instead of the PowerPoint because we have. Can I get one back too? Well, one thing I always learn when you come to these meetings, and you actually, when I go into closed session, I hear a lot of things, so it's really very interesting to hear all the activity that you have going on. But what I wanted to do is to give you a quick report and wanted to go very quickly with you. The activity that we are having within the Twin Counties, both Edgecombe and Nashville, a lot of the activity is in Edgecombe County, and we also have in the city of Rocky Mountain around Kingsborough, and also Nashville, which I know you are very, very interested in. And one of the things that I've just shown you here, just that we are working, and I want you to you're going to see this slide from me every time I come to talk to you, because this is what we're hearing from site consultants and from companies, is that we need product. Ready buildings in sight, the business-friendly environment, which of course you have, competitive incentives, and ready, ready, ready. And these are not Oppie Jordan's words. These are the site consultants and the companies. Map here that I would like you to, if you don't mind handing this out, to look at this with me for just a moment. Because while you already have the shell building, the 10,000 acres, excuse me, the 10,000 square foot shell building and the potential to add the additional 10,000 to that is great. But the activity for projects right now are looking, and I'm not telling you we don't still need to do that. Astera Labs is great. We're getting ready to release a story from them, the activities that they have going on, and they're going great guns, and they intend to probably have some expansions, but they're not really ready to talk about that just yet. And due to all the COVID, the pharmaceutical stuff, the vaccine, all the things that are, I am getting requests for buildings that are 50,000 to 100,000 square feet. And I just received one this past week. The request was for 200,000 square feet, 45-foot eaves. And a lot of this is because of warehousing and distribution for the vaccine. And I'm sure all of you have been following this, and we are in a great location. Nashville is for building, and that's what I have just put up there with you, is to look at the possibility of 50,000 square foot with the ability to expand to 100,000. And what I'm asking you tonight, this is basically a concept plan, is to begin working, and I'm not asking for any money from you. I'm asking for you to allow me, give me permission, along with the manager, to put together this concept plan and actually do a 3D version and put it out, marketing. And when I get a request for a 50 to 100,000 square foot building, which is exactly what I did in Tarboro before the building ever came out of the ground, and that building is already getting ready to be sold to a company that is actually developing the mask that you are wearing and the PPE, the protection. So that's what I'm seeking from you, is can we do this? And you can notice on here, Randy, we've already made some changes that we'll have to make some entrance, different type of entrance into the park here. But this is just a concept that I will come back to you with, if you will authorize me and the manager to move forward to market this as a 50,000 square foot facility, and that does not mean that you're doing anything with the shell building right now, but just to consider it and come back in January and give you more details. The other thing that I wanted to talk briefly with you about is, and I've provided this in your packet because everybody is asking about the intermodal. And it is absolutely, this is a picture for you to see that we're waiting, currently the cranes are actually on the ground, and due to COVID and the engineers who actually will be putting up the cranes, which are coming from Ireland, due to COVID and the restrictions for traveling. But we anticipate that they will be here hopefully the first quarter, and that we will be operational, the actual cranes will be operation. But all of this, a lot of this activity for our whole area is being driven by this intermodal and the logistics, and also the supply chain. It's just incredible, the location that we have, and that is also Nashville. You know, in the close proximity to Raleigh, and I think if you've been following, you just probably noticed that we just had an announcement at the Blue Hawaiian building, which is X-ray equipment, a company that's moving out of New York, and it's not a big, you know, it was gonna be 68 jobs, but that's big. All of them are just as important. But they make the X-ray equipment. You go to the doctor's office to get your dental work done, your dentist. They make those aprons, and so they've moved their headquarters and their operations. So and that's a 57,000 square foot building. So that's the type of activity that we do need buildings for that. And Nashville is a perfect location for that type of company and for that type of operation for a building of that size. The last thing that I have on here is your manager and I have been discussing this, and I just need your approval to say that we can come back in January. I've been actually, was hoping I would have it ready for you tonight, but we are working to identify additional land for development if you decide to pursue it. And I would like to bring that back to you in January with a full map showing you different other locations for potential industrial land. Because I'm going to be quite honest with you, product you do not have. Product Edgecombe County has had, but you know, I've been here 23 years. That didn't just happen overnight. The Kingsborough mega site, all of that 2,000 acre land, that is what Nashville has got to have. Nash County, everybody has got to have product, and you've got to have, whether it's a land or building, and you've got to have it ready for these companies. So that's just, yeah, I'm open to ask to any questions you have. I know you've had a lot to deal with tonight, and I know you gotta be tired, but I just wanted to come and let you know how important you are to us as well in the Carolinas Gateway Partnership. And it's a great location, but I need some product. I need some product to sell. And we've got as the shell building, and if we can work with that and start developing some others. So that's what I'm here to ask you.
Council, do you have any questions?
Just a comment, Mayor. To me, this is very encouraging, Avi, you know, to know that this sort of thing is in the works, and I certainly hope that the town could be able to participate in some of these in the future.
We want to see a lot of yellow dots over here.
Absolutely. And do you know why all
over
those?
here.
That's exactly right. But you know why all those yellow dots that I'm showing you that is because that's where Kingsborough, I have the acreage, and also in Tarboro, and that took a long time. That land started out there, and so now between the town of Tarboro and the developer of Lee Balance, which you have the same relationship and the opportunity, is to build that shell building, and we can do the same thing, and we can get into more detail with that, but that is what I need. You know, and I can start selling it from a concept, and especially today with the virtual. Everything is virtual. I can do the 3D and show you that, but I just need to say, you know, I want more dots up there too, because your close proximity to Raleigh is incredible, and stuff is moving this way, and a lot of the companies are moving out of these larger cities. So you're perfect.
All I can say is move forward.
Absolutely.
Okay, council, do I have a motion that we give them permission to move forward?
So made.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second, and everyone says move forward. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I apologize for the delay.
Do not worry.
You were very gracious. Thank you so much.
Thank you, it's my pleasure. If you want, do you guys want to keep those? You're welcome to.
I would like to keep them if you don't mind.
And if you have any questions, please feel free to call me at any point in time, and, you know, I'm happy to meet with you.
Thank you so kindly. We appreciate it. Now we'll move along to some appointments for different boards. First of all, it's the advisory board reappointment, and it's for Brian Hudson, has expressed interest to planning staff for reappointment to the Downtown Nashville Strong Advisory Board. The reappointment is set to expire on June 30th, 2023. Dylan Bunch is stepping down from his seat on the Downtown Nashville Strong Advisory Board when his term expires December 31st, 2020. The staff recommends that we reappoint Brian Hudson to the Downtown Nashville Strong Advisory Board. Do I hear a motion? Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, the Board of Adjustment reappointment, Ross Strickland, Eddie Thomas, and Tommy Sasser have expressed interest for reappointment to the Board of Adjustment. The appointment is set to expire on December 31st, 2023. Do I hear a motion that we accept these board members to the adjustment?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Appointment of members to the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resource Advisory Board. The PRCR Advisory Board will have 2 vacancies as of January 1st, 2021. It is requested that the council appoint Jacqueline Rogers and reappoint Mary Richardson to the PRCR Advisory Board. Do I hear a motion that we approve these candidates for the board?
Move to reapprove.
Second.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Reappointments to the Library Advisory Board. We have Ekaterina Belea Sykes, we have Vernetta Taylor, and Marilyn Jackson. And the Library Advisory Board has a vacancy due to Carrie Conrad resigning, and our media specialist is recommending Kimberly Mast for this position. She has known her for 14 years since she was an elementary teacher with Rocky Mount Preparatory School. She is now a teacher with the Nash County Public Schools and a supportive patron with Harry D. Cooley Library. Do I have a motion that we accept these?
So made.
Second.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Our next item is considering the our calendar, and it says, in years past, the town council has customarily canceled its last meeting in December due to the holidays. As such, we are formally requesting that the December 30th, 2020 meeting be canceled too. Additionally, we are presenting 2 potential town council meeting schedules for 2021. Both schedules present changes for the council's consideration. Option 1 is consistent with the current meeting schedule, but there's a change in meeting start time to 6 p.m. The early meeting start time helps prevent the buildup of compensatory, well, I can't even say that at this late hour, time for employees who must attend, and prevents meetings from ending at late into the evening. It also lays out budget retreats, work sessions well in advance. As the council may know, legislative items are not able to be approved at agenda meetings. However, we hope the council will consider a less compressed meeting schedule as presented in option 2. And option 2 features 2 regular meetings per month, 1 in the afternoon at 2, and as well as 1 in the evening at 6. This helps prevent the buildup of compensatory, say that word for me, please. Compensatory, I cannot even say it. Time for employees who must attend, and prevents meetings from ending as late into the evening. This option also schedules budget-related retreats, work sessions well in advance. Option 2 also gives the council more flexibility to hold public hearings as well as approve legislative items. Items that are not of as much interest to the public, such as office administrative decisions, could be considered at afternoon regular meetings, whereas items more of interest to the public would be available at evening meetings. We feel that option 2 brings more flexibility to the council as well as the town staff who are called for present items for the council's consideration. It also addresses any concerns about work-life balance for our employees. And you see, we just need to discuss this, council. Can I hear some comments from the council?
We exist because of the citizens of this town. If we meet at 6 o'clock, the citizens of this town will more likely not be able to attend the meeting. At 7 o'clock, there is, that is more, it's a better time for our citizens, because if they get off at 5 o'clock, they have a 2-hour window of opportunity to take care of business and then come to a meeting. 6 o'clock, very few people could make it. I think that we should keep things as is.
Do I hear from any other council members?
Well, I'm against the option 2, basically for similar to the reasons that Ms. Hinton is mentioning. Meeting at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, none of the citizens are going to be able to
Nobody's
make
gonna
it.
come.
You know, that blows it completely out the water.
And then who's in charge of deciding what the public wants to know and doesn't want to know?
Yeah, you know, so, but I'm not against the 6 o'clock, but I'm in favor of option 1.
What do you guys think about just having 2 regular council meetings a month?
See, that made more sense to me,
Yes.
to have 2 regular so that we can do all the things that we need to do.
And we don't have agendas going till.
Right.
Yeah.
So we would not have an agenda meeting, just have 2 regular council meetings?
Exactly. Whenever we need to hold public hearings, we schedule them right in one of those 2 meetings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Well, do I hear a motion to that?
So move.
But I move that we keep it at 7 o'clock for the citizens so that they can attend.
So noted.
I agree with the 7 o'clock time.
I don't have a preference of 6 or 7, but I do think the 2 meetings.
All right,
So you need a motion.
do I need a clear motion from the council,
right.
please?
That ain't clear.
Lynn, give me a clear motion, please. You've started.
I move that we keep the 7 o'clock time frame for our meetings, but that we go to 2 regular meetings per month as opposed to having an agenda meeting.
Do I hear?
You're saying option 2, but keep the
At
time
7.
to 7 o'clock.
Right.
Keeping the time at 7, yes.
All of them at 7 o'clock.
I
That's right.
second that.
I have a,
With the exception of the budget retreat.
Right,
Right.
of course.
Yeah, right.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, motion carries.
And we're going to cancel the December 30th.
Yes.
meeting.
And we're
Right.
going to cancel that as part of it, yes. Now, let's move to our last item, I think, 7D, real estate purchase offer for land to construct our fire station. Attached is the real estate purchase offer that he's prepared and Mark Edward has reviewed for the town to purchase 4 acres of land from Clayton Homes for a second fire station at 1035 Eastern Avenue. And I'm going to turn this over to Randy now.
So as you know, we reached out, Member Ron and I and the fire chief reached out to Clayton Homes to see if there was a possibility. The general manager, Mark Frazier, was excited about the opportunity to work with the town and provide land. He ran that up through the corporate ranks of Clayton Homes, and the response was, well, if we got to build a new driveway, if we give them that 4 acres over there, there's going to be a cost to it. We should at least get the cost of that new driveway from the town for that property. So the current estimate at this point is $65,000. I understand from Mark Frazier that they're in the process of, they solicited bids from area contractors to build this, and they should know shortly what that price will be. He thought it was important that he have a formal offer from the town of Nashville to put up through the corporate ranks so that they can obviously see that we're serious. One of the things we did do, the last 4 pages of that packet is an appraisal on that property. The town paid for this, but it gives you an idea of the value of the land, the 4 acres.
$479,000.
Yes, it's appraised at $479,000, and, you know, the driveway doesn't cost more than $65,000. We required a 4-acre site for a pretty good deal. I mean, we're still gonna have the cost of demolishing the old lumberyard office there. There's a scale house and the scale that'll have to come out. Like, you know, the chief and I believe we can take care of all that with the $100,000 the town has budgeted, the council's budgeted in this fiscal year. The acquisition of this land, the appraisal, some legal work of preparing the actual documents and doing that demolition.
I move that we go forward with the 65,000 before he changes his mind.
Second. Again, that's not a firm number, Larry.
But it's close.
Something's been to work.
It's close.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Do you have any comments from the council, Larry?
I want to thank you, Mayor, Lynn, Randy, for contacting me over the past 2 weeks. For those that don't know, I had some medical issues I had to get taken care of, and the doctors told me I had to do it and do it quick. And I almost talked myself out of it when I looked at it on video. But I went ahead and had it done, and I feel better today than I felt in the last 2 weeks. But I'll tell you right now, I'm hurt now. I need to go home. But I'm glad to be back.
We're glad to
I
have
realized
you back.
this was a full night, and I wanted to try to make it. And my wife said, "Well, go ahead and try it if you want to." So, but we made it, and I appreciate it. I appreciate those people that knew that I had gone through this, that prayed for me, because I accept prayers from everybody. But I'm on the way back. Thank you very much.
Good. Lynn?
I do want to just reiterate something that Kate said earlier in reference to the Western Avenue property. And I'm sorry that Mr. Hurd isn't here to this, but I do want to go on the record saying it. You know, what he is proposing, although it did not pass tonight, I think that he is a very reputable developer that has a lot of good ideas in store for Nashville, and I certainly hope that he won't take this refusal tonight as a deterrent in him proceeding to try to work with us, because I do think there's a willingness here from council members to work with him to try to find a good fit for him here in Nashville, and I hope
Absolutely.
you will convey that to him, Randy.
Absolutely.
And based on what she just said, with these rezoning requests and stuff we went through tonight, that just shows us we've got a lot of work to do, people. We've got to straighten this stuff out.
And thankfully, we've got the comprehensive plan.
Right.
We've got to straighten it out.
Yes, Louise?
That's all right.
I echo those same comments, that Michael did a very good job. I'm sorry he's not here to hear it as well. And I think he was one of the few people that would actually take the time to meet with the public, to come back and to redraw things. And he does have some great ideas, so I do hope that he sticks with Nashville, and I hope that we can work something out somewhere else in the future.
Manager, do you have anything?
Just a quick follow-up to Indian Trails. I heard back from the Office of Recovery and Resiliency with regard to our income survey and our target area for Indian Trail. They've approved that, so now I can go ahead and go door to door and do the income survey, submit that information, and hopefully they will find some money for us to do some additional buyouts in that neighborhood for properties that habitually flood every time, not every time, but a lot of times when Stony Creek comes up.
Thank you, Randy.
And I agree with Lynn concerning Mr. Hertz. He has a very strong reputation as business as well as a character for himself, and I do hope that he will choose to stay with us. And all I can say is, again, we need to remember the family of Deputy Allison and keep them in your prayers, and also just our whole country with this COVID. And take care of yourselves. Have a wonderful Christmas, and we'll see you in January.
Move to adjourn.
Do I hear a motion that the meeting be adjourned? Second. Meeting is adjourned.